Impeachment Commission of the lower house in Brazil gives the green light for impeachment of the president, Dilma Rousseff. Plus, the former president of Argentina, Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, says she has nothing to hide as she's investigated for administrative fraud. Thanks so much for joining us for teleSur's English. I'm Coddy Weddle, and this is From the South. To begin today, the Brazilian government suffered a new setback after the center-right Progressive Party broke its alliance with President Rousseff's Workers' Party. Current and former politicians from the PP are under investigation over the Petrobras scandal. In fact, more than any other political party in Brazil. After the announcement, the party also confirmed that its members will vote in favor of the impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff. Meanwhile, the lower house has moved a step further in the impeachment process. The Special Impeachment Commission has given a green light for the process to begin, and the House Speaker, Eduardo Cunha, has moved swiftly to make the vote on Sunday. If approved by the House, the Senate will have to review the process and approve it. The president can still challenge the House's vote by appealing to the Supreme Court. Former Argentinian President Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner testified today at a Buenos Aires court over alleged fraud during her administration. Now, the president was greeted by hundreds of supporters, as you see there. The judicial authorities are investigating a scheme through which Fernandez and her government allegedly manipulated the future price of the dollar to gain personal benefits. However, the former president insisted that she did not fear justice and had nothing to hide. And many Argentinians are questioning the case, which they regard as a politically motivated investigation.
I think this is a very manipulated investigation. Yesterday, the judge did not even attend to question Axel Kislakov, the former finance minister, even though he was inside the courthouse, as documents have shown. There are no charges presented against any of the higher former ranking officials. The whole case seems to be fabricated. It is very political, focused on driving media attention.
Also in Argentina, taxi drivers paralyzed the streets of Buenos Aires after the Uber app began functioning in the country. Now, the drivers protested to demand a stop to Uber, which they consider should be illegal. This new episode of Taxi Drivers Against Uber comes after the app's appearance in several countries of Latin America, and it has also elicited similar responses. Panamanian authorities raided the offices of the Mossack Fonseca law firm in Panama City. The notorious company became globally known for its role in the Panama Papers, which showed how the firm offered its services specifically targeting wealthy individuals who wanted to avoid taxes. The raid comes as authorities are investigating the company's operations. And Panamanian President Juan Carlos Varela urged France to reconsider its plea to the OECD group of nations to categorize Panama as a tax haven. President Varela said that if France insisted in its request, Panama would oppose the measures. Activists from throughout Latin America have gathered in Honduras to remember the late indigenous leader Berta Cáceres and to discuss new strategies and actions in resistance of transnational corporations. The Latin American Summit, Berta Cáceres, featured cultural celebrations and forums centralized on different issues affecting the region. In Costa Rica now, foreign ministers of Guatemala, Mexico, Panama, and the host country met to discuss an ongoing plan to solve the Cuban migrant crisis. Now, Panama and Costa Rica have been largely affected by the influx of Cubans trying to reach the United States. The countries will continue with a pilot plan which kicked off earlier this year, where the Cubans will be sent to Mexico and will continue their journey from there. In Venezuela now, social movements, unions, and citizens in general are discussing solutions to the crisis being faced by the country in the Congresso de la Patria. With more now, we turn to our correspondent, Ian Bruce. Ian, firstly, if you could just explain when we say Congresso de la Patria, what is that and how do their sessions operate?
Right, Cody. Well, the Congresso de la Patria, or this big national congress, was called by President Maduro in January. as a way of trying to draw on the contributions of all different sectors of the Bolivarian movement, supporters of the government, to discuss the problems and try and propose solutions. We're here now in the Poliedro Sports Stadium in Caracas, where President Maduro is speaking at the moment. He's been speaking for almost 20 minutes now to several thousand people from around the country who've come together. And he began by thanking them for their hard work over the last 2 months in a whole range, hundreds of sectoral meetings, regional meetings, women, Venezuelans of African descent, indigenous people, trade unionists, and so on. And he said at the beginning of his speech that one of the purposes of this Congresso de la Patria is to mobilize people to defeat the plans of the opposition-controlled National Assembly. Now, that's certainly how a lot of people here feel, but I think one of the questions is this just going to be a mobilizing device, a way of rallying the troops, if you like, or is it going to be a body, a movement, a series of meetings that can actually discuss problems, discuss possible solutions, and take decisions? I think that's what we're waiting for.
That's a good question. And so I would assume at this point we don't have any idea how, proposals formed there might actually become actual policy, Ian.
I think that is one of the areas of doubt, Cody. I think the mechanism at the moment is that all these different sectors, there are 19 of them with their groups of spokespeople and their regional meetings and so on and so forth. Each of these sectors is meant to be drawing up its proposals, collating the proposals coming from the different grassroots meetings and putting those into a final document from each of the sectors, which will there be, and that's the question, what happens to those documents? I mean, they will certainly be sent to the executive, to the president, but will there be discussion of the particular proposals? How will decisions be taken? That bit's not really clear at the moment, Cody.
Well, we'll let you go, Ian, so you can continue listening to how Maduro, the president, addresses what seems to be a large crowd there. Ian, thanks. Staying in Venezuela, electricity shortages might become a problem soon. A drought due to the El Nino phenomenon has hit the Guri Dam, which provides most of the country's electricity here. Experts believe that rains could begin within a few weeks, hopefully. However, this year's effects of the climate phenomenon have been more severe than in the past. The Chilean government has launched a new campaign to open the debate on a constitutional reform. President Michelle Bachelet explained that this is a new step in the constitutional reform, which aims at including as many people as possible in the drafting of the new constitution. Now, Chile's current constitution dates back to the Pinochet dictatorship. The World Bank has pledged a fund designated to educate adolescent women across the globe. Now, the amount pledged is $2.5 billion to educate adolescent girls in low-income countries as a way to fight poverty. Speaking at the Let Girls Learn event in Washington, U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama said this fund will benefit everyone.
When we invest in girls' education, when we embrace women in our workforce, that just doesn't benefit them, benefits all of us.
Spanish police now have arrested a man suspected of supplying arms to a Paris gunman who murdered 4 people at a kosher supermarket back in January of 2015. Now, the Frenchman, Antoine Deneville, is suspected of fleeing France weeks after the January 9th supermarket siege. Residents living in Syria's government-held areas went to the polls earlier today to vote in parliamentary elections. However, the elections have been labeled as a sham by Syria's opposition. The parliamentary elections coincides with the beginning of the second round of UN-backed peace talks in Geneva. Macedonian police fired tear gas at refugees stranded in Greece. About 50 refugees tried to pull down part of the razor wire fence separating the two countries, according to a witness there. Greek riot police later intervened to break up the crowd that protested the closure of the border. Nearly 40,000 unionized Verizon communications workers from over 20 locations walked off the job earlier today. The workers are protesting the company's plans to cut health care and pensions. Other issues include offshoring call center jobs and work rules. Now, later in the day, U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders joined the protest, and he addressed the crowd there in New York.
I know how hard it is, what a difficult decision it is to go out on strike. And I know you thought a whole lot about it. And I know your families are going to pay a price for going out on strike. But you have chosen to stand up for dignity, for justice, and to take on an enormously powerful special interest.
Fighting broke out in the Iraqi parliament between ministers earlier today during an emergency session. Now, this was following an overnight sit-in by members protesting Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi's proposed new cabinet list. But due to the scuffles, the speaker may request the dissolution of the assembly. The chaotic session was postponed until Thursday. Jordanian police have closed the Amman headquarters of the Muslim Brotherhood. The organization is popular in urban areas and is the country's largest opposition party. The police evacuated staff and sealed the building, giving no reason for their actions. 45 Taiwanese have been deported to China, where they will be investigated over wire fraud allegations. However, this move is focusing new attention on Beijing's willingness to assert its sovereignty claim over Taiwan. However, a Chinese spokesman said that under Chinese law, Beijing has jurisdiction in the case because their alleged victims were Chinese. April 14th will mark 2 years since the abduction of over 200 girls from a secondary school in Nigeria. 57 of the girls have managed to escape, but 219 are still in the hands of the militant Islamist group Boko Haram. Members of the Bring Back Our Girls protest group walked through the streets of the capital there, tying ribbons in strategic locations in memory, in honor of the girls.
I feel really sad and really kind of disappointed in our government for not being able to bring back the Chibok girls sooner than now, because I feel that if I was one of the Chibok girls, I would still be in captivity up till now, or I'll still be in captivity, and I don't think anyone would like that.
The United States federal judge overseeing the FIFA corruption scandal says he would rule within days whether to set a date for trial. Now, in the meantime, evidence continues to pour in. So far, 15 individuals have pleaded guilty and agreed to cooperate with the prosecution for a reduced sentence. 8 defendants pleaded not guilty pleas, and another 9 have pending extradition requests from the U.S. government. The largest ever exhibition dedicated exclusively to underwear will open on April 16th at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. Now, this exposition, titled Undressed, A Brief History of Underwear, showcases everything from early designs of 18th century corsets to contemporary undergarments. The exhibition looks at the role of the corset in women's underwear, and it also explores the debate of whether they are actually healthy. And that's where we end it today. Thanks so much for joining us. Plenty more on all of those stories at our website, telesurtv.net/English. Also, be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you back here tomorrow.